All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for taking time during the breakout sessions to join me to talk all about product operations. So I'm so excited to be here. So let's get into it. So quick intro of me. My name is Kim Blight. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I'm currently the Senior Manager of Product Operations at ActiveCampaign. ActiveCampaign is a product company. We serve small to medium-sized businesses and help with their email management, CRM, and automations for just helping them expand their customer base and helping them grow their business. So it's a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot every day, and I'm really excited to share some of those learnings with all of you. So before we get started here, I would love to do a quick poll on what is, your current product operation setup at your business. So we're going to have a poll set up here. I think it's actually open right now. So just a quick vote on, does your company currently have a product operations team? So yes, we do, or no, we not yet. If you can just quickly do that poll, I'd love to hear where everybody's at with product operations. See some votes coming in here. It looks like everybody does, which is exciting. Awesome. All right. Well, this is great. I'm so excited that everybody already has product operations working in their business and their organization. So I can definitely expand on kind of how we've scaled out our product operations function and also share the basics as well if you don't have a kind of core understanding of what product operations is and how it works. So thank you for participating. Awesome. So what will we cover today? There's a couple things. The first is I like to start with just where I've navigated my career. So talking about just the various roles within product organizations that I've had, how that's really shifted my mindset on what product operations is and how it can support a business. Second, we're going to talk about what product operations as a function is defined as and how I started small in the role to really kind of grow it into a career that I now have. And then finally, talking about how we can apply product operations practices both at your workplace in a small scale as well as like into a full career. So I really want this conversation to be interactive. I'm saving a lot of time for Q&A at the end because I think that the best way to understand product operations is to just talk about where your organization's at and how this type of role can help. So I'd like to start with my career journey. So I have been in various product roles throughout the past 10 years. Really, a lot of the heart of my work has been between connecting the products that are being built to the people that are building them. So product management is a role I started in a few years back, just really understanding, why are we building the things we're building? What does that look like at scale? And how do we connect, engineering and product design to really work together to deliver the best product to customers? From there, I had a very intriguing year or two in product marketing. I was very curious how product marketing worked and what that actually meant, thinking about how do you take a product vision and translate that to a story for the market. So I did spend some time in product marketing, just really trying to understand what is the story we're telling with products? How can a product manager help serve that message to product marketing, and kind of all of the roles in between there, how they all work together. So, and then finally, product operations is such an interesting blend of both of those roles. Another role that I had taken on a few years back was program management, and that also kind of fed into all of these roles. I found that a lot of the projects I was picking up at work, a lot of the opportunities I had were around making the programs that helped all these teams work together. So I put at the bottom just scaling and growing teams to ensure that people are growing at the same pace as disciplines. A lot of scaling and opportunities come within teams that are just trying to solve problems. So I think for me, the big thing in my career was, how can I make sure all these people are working together? How can I make sure that the roles are connected? And how can I make sure that we're delivering the best value to customers and to our internal teams? So lots of interesting learnings throughout my career so far. And I think that's really set me up nicely to really take on product operations with that full view of kind of how it works with all the other teams. So going into my career journey in product, first of all, I love gifts. So you'll see these throughout the presentation. But what did I expect? I think going into a career in product, I always thought, there's one ladder that we're climbing up. There is milestones and titles and compensation. There's clear career bands that will take you from a kind of associate role to a senior role to a director role to a VP role, whatever, however those titles work at your organization. I always expected it to be pretty simple. And, the instructions were there. You can move up and kind of along the way learn what you need to learn to get there. The way it's actually worked is, this is one of my favorite gifts of all time. This is actually how it feels to describe my career journey in product. I think that jumping from product management to program management to product marketing to now product operations, there's just been so many varying titles. There's been varying, compensation conversations with the team. There's been so many ladders that I'm just kind of climbing back and forth on. But it all has kind of made sense to where it set me up to be. So I think that mindset shift of, product operations is a role where it's not very clearly defined yet. A lot of people are still trying to understand what it means, especially, organization to organization that can look different. But I think just going into kind of my next phase of my career with this is my mindset really has helped, because I think that knowing there's no clear instructions is actually where I thrive. And I discovered that about myself as well. So I think that what that comes down to is following the impact. So I think, all of us, if you attend amazing conferences like this, you really care about, who you are and how you're growing in your career. I think that alone shows that you're trying to follow the impact of kind of where can you add the most value. And I think that has been what has been core to me as well. So that means that I'm always looking at the organization as a whole to say, where are the gaps? How can I help fill in those gaps? How can I take on things that might not necessarily be in my day-to-day, but they're important to me, and it's important to me that we solve them. So if I'm not the person solving them, how am I making sure that person that is has the tools they need to succeed? So I think thinking about product operations as a role where you really are following impact and you're trying to connect dots, that is really the best way I've found to describe it. And that's how I'll describe it in these next few slides as well. So for those of you that don't know what product operations is, I like to think of it as air traffic control at a very much smaller scale than actual air traffic control. But I also just really appreciated this gift that I found of, that's how I would be. Probably not, but if I was in air traffic control, I feel like I would want to be this person because they were very inspiring to me. But I think that the best way to describe it is just the facilitator. You are looking at communication across a product organization, and you are making sure that stakeholders and product teams have the resources and data to do their jobs. Essentially, it's helping those cross-functional teams work effectively and efficiently. So I know that sounds very high level, but when you think about it, product operations is the glue that is connecting teams within an organization. So you are in lockstep with product teams, with engineering teams, with design teams. And you are taking what they're building and you're sharing it out internally with stakeholders across success, across sales, across support, across marketing. And then you're also helping to make sure the customers have the right information about the product you're delivering as well. So it's a lot of this air traffic control role where you are always looking at, how can we make things more efficient as we're doing this work? How can we make sure people are connected at the right time? How can we get ahead of risks and obstacles? I think that you really have to have the mindset of, I'm here to help, I'm here to connect people. That's going to come with a lot of challenges across teams, but I think that's also what makes it so fun, is that every day I'm just helping people solve problems, which to me is where the impact is. So what could that look like day to day? So road mapping, I think, is the biggest thing. So, product teams are developing roadmaps every day. They're looking at, what are we building? Why are we building it? What's coming next? So as product managers are kind of heads down in that work, product operations is taking that and distributing it to the people that need to see it. So making sure that leadership is aligned to the roadmap, making sure stakeholders are aware of what we are kind of working on next. Road mapping is just a critical part of that process because it really is the source of truth around what you're building. From there, stakeholder management. So like I said, it's not just the product organization that needs to know about the roadmap. It's every other team within the organization. So how does product marketing see the roadmap? How does marketing, sales, success, support, all these groups have very critical roles within the roadmap of understanding what they can tell customers, of understanding how they can enable teams. So making sure they all have what they need to do their jobs as well is super, super critical to the role. Additionally, onboarding and enablement. So product managers are constantly in need. I'm sure all of you work at organizations that are either hiring product managers or looking to hire them eventually, but making sure they're onboarded properly. Product operations is a great role to ensure that a new product manager that's joining is onboarded with success, because we want to make sure that any of the processes and programs that we're rolling out, the product managers that are new to the team are understanding why they exist, following them, adhering to them, giving feedback, as well as enablement. So making sure that as new features are in the roadmap or new additions are made, product operations can work with enablement teams to make sure we're training the right people and educating them on those releases. Additionally, the tool stack. So there are so many different tools out there, between road mapping tools to kind of process tools to Jira to Confluence to all these different communication, resourcing, and just like product tools. Having a single team own, what tools do we have in play? Which ones are we evaluating? How can we ensure everybody's on the same tool? Which, as you scale, can be challenging because a lot of people want to try out new tools. They kind of want their autonomy, but you have to think about the big picture in this role and say, okay, as an organization, we're going to use this tool, and here's why. Because if you don't do that, you're going to then, develop just having 20 different tools across your organization with really no rhyme or reason as to who owns them. So tool management is super critical as well. I know I've said everything is critical here, but these really are kind of the tenets of the role. So how do we approach that at Active? I think it's good to just give an actual example. Everything from people, resourcing, making sure our teams have the right people, to roadmap visibility, giving those updates, bridging gaps, to the actual infrastructure, so the tools and stack that make the work available, and then that's stakeholder management. So it really is essentially the same 4 things that I mentioned on the last slide, but I wanted to give a little more detail about how we do it at Active, because I think it just helps to have an actual example. So we are always thinking about that, as well as we are in kind of a hyper growth stage right now as an organization. So ensuring that anything we do kind of scales with that as well. So when your organization may be ready, there's a couple different things that happen within an organization that will give you a little bit of a nudge to say, is it time to have product operations here? The first one being that your product management team is spending more time preparing decks, talking to stakeholders, and just kind of making sure communication is clear than they are shipping product. So if your team is constantly just in this flow of like, I just have to connect people to the roadmap versus grow the roadmap, talk to customers, understand use cases, build talk tracks, the things that are core to a product manager role. If they don't have time to do that because they're so busy trying to get a handle on stakeholders and presentations, that's a first signal of maybe product operations is a good fit for your team. Additionally, when partner teams have limited access to the roadmap or visibility into what is coming next, and they're constantly just, reaching out to people across the organization to say, where do I go to find this? Is this still the source of truth? They're asking questions in Slack that are getting lost. Nobody's really answering them. Or even worse, they're getting different answers from multiple people. So the stakeholders that kind of all work with product, if they're not getting the answers they need, that's another signal. Additionally, systems and processes that haven't been refreshed, and if your team is growing and you can't kind of keep up with that. So a lot of companies have, their startup processes that worked really well when they were a 3-person team. Now they're 30 teams and they're still trying to do the same thing. That's a really good opportunity to evaluate. Should we have somebody in this role who's kind of looking at all of our processes to say, this is working really well, or this might need some work? It helps to have a kind of unbiased role that's not, just the one PM on the team who happens to raise their hand, it's good to have somebody who's looking at it holistically to say, how can we make sure the processes and the systems we have are going to grow with us? And how can we ensure that that maintenance and kind of training that needs to happen as you scale grows with it? So that's another great moment to say, maybe it's time to have somebody in this role. So how to get started? This is one of my favorite parts. There's 4 different areas here. Let's say you're a product manager or you're just somebody in an organization that sees the need for this role. My first step that I did at Sprout Social, which is where I was before ActiveCampaign, was I did a survey. I surveyed the product and the tech org to say, what's working well in terms of your processes and programs? Where do you see success? And where do you spend your time? I think those are 2 kind of core questions. Because 1, it talks about what's working well, where are you seeing success, and then as well, where are you spending your time? So if they say, things are going well, but I'm also spending, 30 hours a week with stakeholder management, that might show you, hey, there's actually an opportunity here. So taking a survey of product team members, of the tech org, and just making sure that everybody within the product organization has a moment to say, like, here's where I spend my time. This could help me. Here's what I'm looking for. There's so many different questions you can ask, but just really getting a pulse on where everybody stands is that first step. Then surveying your stakeholders. So thinking about those teams, product, marketing, sales, success, support, marketing itself. There's so many teams across the organization that have a stake in how you build product. So how are they feeling about how they work within product teams? What would be an improvement they could make given a chance? You'll find out a lot of information here around what they actually understand about the roadmap, how they can use it, how it can be applied to their work. And it will also give you a chance to build empathy for them and understand what it feels like to be on a customer call and not really know how to respond to a question about the roadmap, or to not have a talk track that they need if they're on a support call. So really understanding your stakeholders' perspective and making sure that that is implemented into the work that you do as well. From there, taking all of your data and aligning it to themes. So what themes rose up? There's probably bigger themes around communication, around just, stakeholder information in terms of enablement and how you actually share out information. How can you take those themes then and form them into actionable time-based projects? So one of the first projects I took on was, there was a big gap in communication and understanding how to get product questions answered. So we built a knowledge base. How do we take all the information that PMs are writing, product marketing's writing, and support's writing all these answers? They weren't all in one place. So we built out a knowledge base in Confluence. And that was our single source of truth for, like, if you have a question about the product, you can come here for an answer. So taking the themes, so that theme was communication, how do we actually turn that into something that's actionable? How can we make quick, valuable, success on work? You could take a small project and try something out. Then I think from there, looking at those themes and saying to your leaders, hey, we want to do this. This is important work to us. We want to present these themes for approval. So looking at all the projects you could do, asking leaders, which ones can we start with here? What does that look like? And then also asking, how can you measure success? So success measurement is critical to just getting buy-in. So is that success, support agents now have the answers to what they need because there's information in the knowledge base? Is it, aligning the success team so that when it comes to roadmap presentations, they feel confident talking to customers? There's so many different success measurements that you can use, but really finding the right ones for your organization is going to be the key to having success. So those steps are really kind of the first couple things to do out of the gates. I think a lot of times you can start those projects in your current role. So let's say you're a product manager and you're interested in product operations and you're not sure if you actually want to pivot. Try out a project, something that has an end date, something that's simple, something that would be a quick win for your team. That will show you, one, if the organization has an interest in bringing on product operations, and two, if you have an interest in it, which is the critical part. I want to make sure that if you make a pivot to product operations, you are interested and excited about it, because I think that there's so much unknown in product ops. Where it's a growing field. It's something where we're kind of trying things out every day and learning from each other, which I think is so important. But I think that you have to go into it with that mindset of, this is a ship that might not have as clear of a path for me, but it's interesting work and it's impactful. So that's my kind of intro to product operations. I would love to open it up for questions, thoughts. We have about 9 minutes, so want to make sure that we get any questions answered or just conversations going. Awesome. All right. What is the most important skill for working in product operations? That is a great question. Honestly, empathy is so important to the role. I think every day you are getting asked to pivot kind of what you're working on to help a team. You're getting asked to, help teams understand things better. You're getting asked to communicate things out that maybe you've communicated out already. But having the empathy to understand, this is a success manager who is on a call with the customer and they didn't have the answer that they needed, so I need to help them figure it out. I think that is so important to the role. So having empathy and just really understanding that your role is serving as a bridge between a lot of different groups, and making sure that you know that every day is going to be a little bit different and you're going to get feedback on what's working and what's not. And just being open to that feedback and understanding that it's well-intended and you can come at it with kind of a positive opportunity to just improve. So there's constant improvement. So many people daily are giving me feedback and saying, hey, it'd be great if we did this, or why don't we try out this tool? And I just want people to feel heard. I think that's so important. And I think people understand that we make changes for certain reasons, but I think the more I can show up with empathy and explain the why, the better. Because I think that people are always more willing and understanding of things that we'll roll out when they understand why we did it and they feel like they were a part of it. You're welcome. Other questions? Stop sharing my screen. All right. Who were your biggest advocates across your organization when getting started in product operations? Another great question. I would say the biggest advocates were the people that felt the pain the most. So thinking about, support is one I always go to. Support and success. The people that are on the front lines, talking to customers, getting questions asked to them where maybe they don't feel confident, maybe they don't feel sure of an answer. Those are the teams that were like, we need this role. We want you to do this role full time. And I also think for the product managers, having time back to actually talk to customers, having time back to be thoughtful and strategic about their long-term plans, this role really unlocked that time for them. So I was now taking on things that they were focused on, like the beta process of like, we want to, have 20 customers in our beta process. I was then taking that work and doing the work of finding the right customers and talking to those customers, getting them set up for the beta so that when the product manager came in, they were able to just focus on the feedback. They didn't have to worry about the logistics. They didn't have to worry about, have we communicated with these customers? Have they said yes or no? It really is framing it as giving people time back. Those people always became my advocates, because I think if you go up to anyone and say, hi, I want to take on a role at this company that'll save you time and make you, more equipped to do your job efficiently, I think everybody is going to be your advocate. But being very specific about who's in your corner, who's going to help you. And also, if you're trying to pitch a product operations role for the first time, who's going to help you do that? Who has influence in the organization? Which leaders feel this pain? Because I think the leadership level is super important to getting buy-in. So who are your advocates at the leadership level? Who are your advocates in the day-to-day? And then also, like, how does all of this kind of work together to help you be set up for success? Right. Many times product ops improvements take a lot of buy-in and therefore time. How do you prioritize the most impactful changes to make? Thank you, Sarah. That is a great question. And I think that trying to prioritize the most impactful changes really comes down to how will the changes we make impact the greater team. So I was always looking at, those impactful changes, who's going to, which change is going to influence the greatest amount of people. So thinking about the knowledge base, I knew that was going to be a win across the board. Every team benefits from having, a knowledge base, having information in one place. So that was kind of how I judged this is the most important thing to take on. Additionally, I think anything that's going to move the needle for the organization as a greater kind of whole. So looking at projects that scale across teams. If we have, a new beta program, if we have a new, customer program, that's going to impact support, success, sales, marketing, and product. So those types of projects are always kind of at the top of the list because they have the biggest impact. So thank you for that question. And then speaking of success, how do you and your team measure success? Great question. Kind of changes every day. But we start with one, are teams working on the things in their roadmap and are they completing them? I think the completion part is critical because we want to make sure if we're committing to things across the org, how are we making sure that the team's actually, seeing those through? The other one is tools and kind of allocation of tools. Are people using the tools that we provide them? And how do we ensure that they're actually applying those processes to their work? So making sure that things are updated on time, making sure that things are checked in on, kind of all of the parts of that involve making sure that processes are being followed, that programs are being achieved, and that the tools that we use that are in place are actually being kind of withheld. And I really appreciate the gifts as well. Thank you, Lindsay. I think that anytime we can add humor to this work is really important to me because I think at the end of the day, so much of the work is having fun, is reminding people that, we're here to be the glue to help you. Like I have so many people that come to me, not in a panic, but just this is so frustrating. I can't figure it out. My role is to really help them figure it out and what can we do to make it better? And if we can't do something right now, what can we do in the future? I think that, having that empathy and just really reminding people that this work is so helpful if it's done right, and not coming at it as here's my rule book on product ops, you all must follow it. That would be my worst nightmare if I did that. But I think that if you approach it as I'm here to help you, this is a role that can help us as an organization. You're going to have a lot of people kind of in your corner fighting for you and advocating for you to do the work you do. So yes, that is so important. And I think that having the right sponsors and champions, and if you have questions about product operations and you want somebody to talk to, please reach out to me. I think that I'm here to help. I'm here to help connect you to organizations that have product operations, to kind of more details on how I got started. I think, I'm here to do that. So please let me know. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. My name is Kim Blight. I'm pretty sure it's Kimberly Blight is the LinkedIn thing. I will check on that. But yes, Kimberly Blight on LinkedIn. Please connect with me there. I'd be happy to talk to you anytime because I love this work. I love helping others find their passion in it, and I help connecting people. I love helping connect people to the work itself. So please let me know. Awesome. That's great. So somebody said that they thought they had product operations, but now after hearing it, they don't think they do, and they can use it. This is great. That's so exciting. I'm so happy to hear that. Please share those stories with me. I would love to hear how anybody found success with product operations after this talk. So we are at time, but thank you all again so much. It was so great to talk to you all, and hopefully I will hear from you at some point. Thank you.